gentlemen, boys and girls, you're now tuned to the show. I'm your host, MJ, and we're going to take another trip down horror lane. So as you guys already probably can tell, today we're going to be moving on to my classic movie horror series. We're going to go into episode 3. Now, episode 3, I want to talk about two particular classic films that I think were, I had some mixed points and views about them, okay? I would say they weren't some of my best ones from the classic era, but they were still, I would say they were pretty fair. So without any further ado, like I said, I want to talk about two films that I just thought that was, like I said, they're not nothing major. It's not nothing to get all thrilled and excited over, but it's just something fair and decent just to watch. If you're in the mood just to watch when you're in that mood and you know you're watching mystery, suspense, and horror films, and then you're just watching them back to back to back, and then you can end up incorporating some of these particular films. That's what type of films these two are. So without any further ado, because I don't want to be rambling on, no one wants to hear anyone just babbling. But anyways, so number one film that I wanted to talk about just briefly would be Horror Express. Okay, now Horror Express came out in 1972. The 1972 film Horror Express. Okay, it's pretty much about an anthropologist who books a train ticket home with a frozen body that basically soon turns out to be a nightmare adventure. So pretty much that's what the whole film is about. As I said, it's called Horror Express, released in 1972. So with this film, like I said, it was in color. It wasn't black and white. It was in color. But as I said, with Horror Express, it's one of those movies where you really have to be focused on the movie. What I mean by it is, you have those particular movies, no matter what genre it is, you can't be all over the place. You can't be getting up, going here, and then going there and moving all around. You have to be like really focused in and locked in on this film. That's what Horror Express is. You have to be locked in on Horror Express, or if you will miss things and you just will completely be thrown off and won't understand what's going on. But as I said, it's hard. It's hard to bear through the whole movie because there's a lot of different parts of the movie where you just have like, okay, where is this leading to, or where is this going to? But if you do stick in and you just really stay focused on, you will see that it is a fairly decent. Okay, like I said, it's not one of this list that I'm doing today. The two films I'm discussing, they're not one of the top majors back in the classical films. It wasn't with the top-notch ones like, for instance, House on Haunted Hill, Dementia 13, etc., etc. There were so many classic films, but I do think it's an all right, pretty decent, fair film. As I said about the anthropologist who takes a train home when there's this frozen body that's on the train as well, and it's locked up in. But eventually, as I said, I guess you have to say that this is like more like a supernatural film, because at some point, I guess whatever the frozen body is, it thaws out, but it comes to life. And then as you see throughout the whole film, there's a lot of people that's being attacked on the train, and a lot of people that dies, and then you see these passengers and even the anthropologists and some of the other people on the train where they're just running around trying to figure out whether it's because you have people that's already alleging and claiming, saying, hey, there's some type of monster that's attacking people. Then you have a certain percentage of the people on the train that doesn't believe it, like, okay, fairy tales, etc., etc. There's no monsters, no such thing as monsters. But when it come to find out, eventually all these passengers soon to come to find out and discover that there is some type of monster on this train. And that's just how it goes. And basically you just see through the whole entire film, it's just about people dying and getting picked off. It's kind of gory and gruesome, does have a little horrifying depth to it. But I just think that the movie, I think it was missing some things. It was a little dull, even though it was a horror film, but it was just too dull, like it was missing some things. And as I said, you have to really be in tune with the film or you will miss out on some things. But I said, it's all right. It's a pretty cool film. It doesn't have no star cast in it, not really no major known people, no blockbuster actors or actresses, but it's pretty fair. Okay, it's not trash, it's not garbage, but it's alright. But as I said, if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. Especially if you're one of those people that like going back and look at a lot of classical films, especially if you're a horror fan, I highly recommend go check out the Horror Express. It's an all right, fair film. Now, moving on to the second film that I want to talk about as well. Like I said, I had mixed points of views about this film. With this film that I'm about to talk about right now with you guys for a few minutes, I couldn't quite put my finger on what specific thing that I wanted to basically point out about this next film. But I just say that to me personally, when you say a definition of just a bad film, I think that this film was just bad, just overall how the story structure was going, and then also like just some of the cast members, especially the antagonist, it just was like, okay, really. But without any further ado, the second film on this episode 3 I want to talk about briefly with you guys is Don't Answer the Phone. The 1980s film Don't Answer the Phone. This is actually a color movie as well. So Don't Answer the Phone is pretty much basically a Vietnam veteran who terrorizes LA by going around slaughtering young women in their homes. That's pretty much what the whole damn thing of the movie is about. Okay, so what you will see is the movie starts off with the main antagonist. Okay, the Vietnam veteran. It starts off, so they actually reveal to us and show us who actually this killer is. Now, at the same time, while this Vietnam veteran, the main antagonist, going out through all around LA, killing, just basically terrorizing and killing young adult women throughout the film in their homes. He's actually, what's so crazy is the only thing I liked about this film is that the little part how they showed how obviously that the main antagonist was so sick of an individual that he would actually, he had an obsession with calling into this radio show to talk to the host of the radio show. And then that's how it was going. He would talk about some of the things he was doing, and he would even make it where he constantly a repetitive cycle where he kept calling into the radio show and talking to the host, and also a little bit exposing about what and bragging about what he was doing. But and as you've seen the police through this movie, it just was so silly because how they were so baffled and lost, and how they couldn't. What really like pissed me off about this film is like, how is it that the kill scenes that was happening and occurring, how is it that when the kill scenes was taking place, is that you had these certain people that were neighbors or certain people that were guests or to some of the victims, how were they not able to see what was going on or to not even like protect or help the victims in this film? And it's like this guy was just, like I said, just going on this crazy rampage where he just would go into, he basically would stalk the women. And then it didn't matter. It didn't matter what type of woman. Now, I think majority all the women were all white. So we would have to say that it probably took place in a certain particular part of Los Angeles. But like I said, the guy, he would set his eyes on particular women. I don't know how he would choose and pick, but he chose and picked a specific woman. And then he would follow them, and then he would, like I said, break into their home, terrorize them, and he would just kill them. Now, it was crazy because he wasn't, it's not like he was sexually assaulting them. Like a lot of them, what you see through the movie, he wasn't even sexually assaulting them. He was just basically doing certain things that was like using like a knife or everything that would like kind of like rip off their clothes, but he wasn't necessarily sexually assaulting them or like having sex with them. He was more, or having sexual intercourse. He was more just had a fun or some kind of psychological thrill out of just doing that and tormenting them and then killing them, but not actually having any sexual intercourse with them. So that's what I thought was intriguing. But as I said, I really I thought this was a bad film overall. Okay, don't answer the phone. The 1980 film Don't Answer the Phone, I just think it was just a bad film all around. It was just terrible. I wasn't too fond of the cast. It didn't really have a really solid cast. I think the story structure was just a little bit. It was too cheesy, and it's just like the scenes where we're seeing, especially the kill scenes, and even not the kill scenes. It's like the battle between the antagonist and the protagonist. It was just too simple, but it was just kind of like dumbfounded. Like, okay, really? Like, I just feel that the scenes where you saw that the antagonist was on the hunt for the women, or that was killing the women in this film, I just think it was just so simple. And I just think that the producers and the production could have done a better job of making the scenes more believable. I just don't think that the scenes were believable when we're specifically talking about the kill scenes, okay? It just was bad. And then it just seemed like you can tell that, okay, really? That it just seemed so fake. It didn't seem real, basically. You guys kind of understand what I'm saying. It just didn't seem real. It was just so fake. And that was the issue that I had with the 1980 film, Don't Answer the Phone. It just was too all over the place, and it was just too simple, and I just think it was a poor job by the production company. Now, we know, of course, at that time, the production and then the film equipment, everything staged, it was different compared to all the technology we have nowadays. But still, even back then, okay, we've seen a lot of films that where they didn't have all the technology and equipment we had back then, but it still had good and fair and decent films. So that's what I had. That was my opinions about Don't Answer the Phone. As I said, Um, I would have to say both of these two. So I guess you would say two of my least favorite of the classic horror films. These I would say Horror Express and Don't Answer the Phone. Now Horror Express, I will say it was more sustainable and more you could actually be more tend to like actually see it through or be like, okay, it's all right compared to Don't Answer the Phone. So if I had to get a rating, I would say Horror Express, as I said, it was fair and decent. It was alright, it wasn't trash. But I think Don't Answer the Phone was completely trash. I didn't like Don't Answer the Phone at all. I just think it was terrible, garbage. It's just everything about it. I was just like, okay, really, like this could have just been done better. But what really displeased me about the film Don't Answer the Phone is that it just didn't add up. Like I said, it just seemed that the killer. I don't know if it was the actor that was playing the antagonist in the movie, the antagonist, or is it just period? It just seemed like you can tell it's like one of the major bootleg films that just seemed like if they didn't have the best equipment during that time frame, or it's just like the poor acting by the actors and actresses. Because some of those actresses, even the victims, some of the young women, adult women in the film, they were doing poor, terrible jobs as far as the scenes, the kill scenes. So that was my big issue I had with this film. I just think it was not believable. It's like you can tell that this was so fake, and you could tell you were like watching, like, you know how, like, for example, if you're watching something in live, like if you're at the studio when they're actually filming a film, or you're somewhere where they're actually shooting a movie, that's how I felt with this film. Like you just sitting there watching the actors act this out. Like you could just tell, like it was just so fake and not believable. That's what the issue I had with Don't Answer the Phone. I just think it was bad to me. It was a bad film. Okay, it was a bad film. But that's all I have for you guys. I just wanted to share these two quick movies with you guys. As I said, they do fall under the horror genre. But as I said, I know you guys see me rant and go on a good rampage about a lot of films that I like. But sometimes you will see me actually talk briefly about films that I actually don't like and the reasons why I don't like them. Okay, but still, it is what it is. But those are the two films that if you haven't watched them, highly recommend you watch them. You can watch them, but you can see for yourself and whether what do you feel about them. But just a heads up and warning you, don't answer the phone. It's not that very good. The Horror Express, it's okay, it's all right, it's sustainable, but it's one of those films, the Horror Express, you will have to watch it and not be focused on anything. You have to have your undivided attention on Horror Express. But Don't Answer the Phone, I would say which one out of both of them, I would say hands down I would have to pick Horror Express over Don't Answer the Phone. It's just that I just had so many negative and bad things to say about Don't Answer the Phone. As I said, the only thing I liked about Don't Answer the Phone was the little scenes where the antagonist would be contacting on a continuous basis. He would be contacting the radio show host and talking to the radio show host like he had an obsession with talking to the radio show host, almost as if the radio show was his psychiatrist or something. But that's all I have for you guys. So once again, if you haven't done it, I highly recommend go check it out. Okay, just let you guys may like them. Okay, you may have a different opinion. But two other classic horror films in episode 3: Horror Express, the 1972 film Horror Express, and the 1980 film Don't Answer the Phone. Those are two films that I want to talk about on this list. Okay, I've watched them before a couple of times, and I had just watched them recently once again, and I just thought, hey, what the heck? Why not go ahead and talk about two films that probably would not even go in my top 10, definitely, but not even go in my top 20. But I still would say that it's okay if you want to watch something and you're looking for something horror to watch, maybe something you haven't watched before, especially if you're looking for some good old classic horror films. You will come run into something that's good, and you'll run into something bad. But that's all I have for you guys. I want to thank you guys for tuning into the show. So that you already know, I always give much love and appreciation to you guys. So until next time, you already know what it is. Peace.